Oh, hello. Oops. Ah. Is this still recording? Darn it. It's a funny thing when you have a new camera and you're like, crap, did I break it already? Did I break my new camera like literally within seconds of using it for the first time? Knowing my luck, I probably would. So, as I've been talking about, we are doing tests. We are doing lots and lots of video tests until my wife and I go off to Thailand. And so after using the GoPro yesterday, I realized the GoPro wasn't the best bet for doing a vlogging video. I got a lot of comments from people, not only just saying that the video quality was bad on the GoPro, but literally that it made them sick. Apparently, it was a virtual vomit comet. So that's not a good thing. It's not a good thing. I mean, I don't want you guys to feel like I'm pandering to you. Believe me, at any time you can unsubscribe and you can go away. But I do feel like I shouldn't create videos that make you want to vomit. That's probably a bad deal. So I went out today and I was looking at different cameras and I decided to pick up, this is a Sony HDR AX55. I think that's what it is. AX53, FDR AX53. So this is a 4K Handycam with this really cool optical stabilization in it. Like the optical stabilization is so bizarre. I'm like looking at it right now, and it like you can physically see it move the entire lens as it follows you for the stabilization. So it has that, and then I have the external microphone. So there was a microphone I bought for one of my cameras back when I was in Seattle, and so that has like the wind reduction thing, the little dead cat deal on top. So I'm thinking that maybe this will be the video camera that I will be using for vlogging going into the future. Because I think it's a very good quality. I mean, you'll have to tell me like what you guys are saying. But this should be a very, 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 very good quality 4K video. Plus it should be very good quality audio. Plus we shouldn't get any wind noise. So overall, this should be a very good camera. Now the only problem is it is a pretty big camera. It's definitely a lot bigger than a GoPro. So I think this thing weighs like 26 ounces. I'm not sure what that comes out to pounds or whatever. So it does weigh a little bit, especially since I have it on this Manfrotto monopod that I normally use. So there is some weight to it. But if it gets me good, audio quality and it gets me good video quality, I will be able to deal with the weight. I'll just consider it part of my little exercise routine. So this is the big thing. Getting this camera was the big deal for today. Went out to Best Buy this morning. Because again, trying to look for different options. Because I mean, that's one of the things you have to think about. Like whenever you're going to be doing a project of any sort. Is like if you know your equipment isn't going to work, if you know your equipment isn't going to give you the results you want, you really have to ask yourself if that's the equipment that you really want to use. So like, with me going off to Thailand, here's the deal. After this, I probably will not go to Thailand for a long time. Mainly because there's just a lot of other places in the world. There's Africa, and I really would like to get back to Europe, and there's lots of other places in Asia. Like I say, I'd like to go to Laos and all that kind of thing. So if I go to Thailand right now and I take a really crappy camera with me and I get a lot of bad video, well, that kind of sucks, trying to save a couple of bucks now, and then you're stuck with that video quality forever. Again, that's one of the big things to think about, like with YouTube videos, is for some reason people have the idea with YouTube videos is that they're very disposable, that they don't last for a long time. Like there's this idea like, oh, if I do a YouTube video now, in a year, nobody's going to care about it. But I have to say, remember, I started my Everyman IT project back in 2009, and people still watch those videos. They still watch those videos, they still leave comments on the videos still make me money. So even years and years and years later, I'm still making money off of videos. And so I remember back when I was doing those videos, and I thought to myself, should I spend a little extra time making these a better quality? And then I thought to myself, no. By the time it matters, I'll just go back and redo them. I'll just do new versions of these videos. Well, guess what? I never did new versions of those videos. So those videos are just up there with their crappy little quality, and that is how they will be forever. So that is something you should be thinking about, like if you're gonna do vlogging or any of this video stuff, is especially like buying a good video camera. I mean, it's just something that you need, right? And it's a one-off expense, and it controls everything else. You know, that's one of the reasons I tell you guys to go out, and if you're really gonna be doing YouTube videos, you should get a 4K video camera, because it is something just so fundamentally simple that really does affect the quality of all of your work, right? I mean, when you record in 4K, that is just so much prettier and so much nicer and so much more wonderful than even 1080p, and it'll last forever. And it really is. I mean, it's the type of thing to think about, is in 10 years, when people are watching your videos, would you have preferred that you would spend a couple of extra bucks to buy a 4K camera back now, or, you know, your crappy thing? So just one of those little things to be thinking about when you go out there and buy video cameras. So yeah, I picked this guy up. It's about $1,000. 4K cameras are expensive, but it's Sony. It's Sony. And again, as I say, I mean, this is my business. This is my job. And there's not a lot of expense otherwise. That is the one nice thing with YouTube. YouTube is one of those businesses where it's like all profit margin. Because again, you go out there, you buy the camera, you buy a few things. But you know, past that, there's not really much else to it. You don't have to pay for advertising. Like so many things like I had with a normal business, you just don't have to pay for. So, you know, me going out there and dropping a little bit of money on cameras and things, it's not as bad as it seems. I know, spending $1,000 on a camera is like, it's $1,000 on a camera. But again, I don't have to pay rent for an office. I don't have to pay for errors and omissions or liability insurance. You know, there's all these expenses that if I had a normal IT business, I'd have to worry about. Whereas with this business, it's like, I have to buy a couple of cameras every once in a while. What the hell ever. Know what I'm saying? Oh, but anyways, what is this? I think this is April 12th. As far as the exercise routine is going, went off to do my exercises this morning. It was very hard, because my wife decided to stay in bed. And I do have to say, I've talked about this a couple times before, but I really do notice, like when my wife decides to stay in bed or not do the same exercise as I do, it really is a lot harder to get out. Because I woke up and I had my stuff on, and I was like, okay, dear, why aren't you out of bed yet? She's like, oh, I'm not going. And as soon as she said, I'm not going, I was like, I don't really want to go either. You know what I'm saying? You just sit there and you're like, maybe I should curl up in bed too. But I forced myself to go out there. It was nice since I now have that Polar H7 heart rate strap. And I do think, like, if any of you guys are thinking, or girls, or Z's, any of you folks, are thinking about going out and using exercise machines, I think I really would recommend that you get the heart rate monitor. Now, if you go out and you do normal exercises, so you run normally or you bike normally, you know, whether you get a heart rate monitor, that's up to you. I would probably argue not, right? Because it's very easy to track your progress when you're doing normal physical exercise. So, like for me, when I was running before, you know, I would pick the path that I would run on, and then I would just run it. And basically, the way to push myself harder, the way to make myself exercise more, would simply to be try to run it faster. So if I timed myself and I ran it faster, I know I pushed myself harder. And if I ran it slower, I know I hadn't, right? So the same is true, you know, whether you're biking or running or any of that kind of stuff. Well, here's the issue: is when you go into a gym and you're using one of these stationary machines, the problem is basically when you get on these machines, all you do is you go for an hour. So like with me, I get on an elliptical machine and I go for an hour. Right? There's no path that I take. It's not like I elliptical myself for 5.5 miles. I just simply get on the elliptical machine and I might push myself for an hour. And so when you don't really have the time thing to track yourself with, it can get very hard to know whether or not you're pushing yourself. Because, you know, you get a little sweaty, you get a little warm, you get a little, but it's like, are you really pushing yourself that hard? It's kind of hard to measure. So one of the nice things, you have the if you have the strap on, like while I've had the strap for for doing the spinning class and the strap for doing the elliptical, the nice thing is you can keep track of what your heart rate is, and then you can see if you're really pushing yourself. Because that's always the thing, right? You always say you're pushing yourself. Oh yeah, I'm pushing really hard. It's like, yeah, you know what I'm saying? Unless you have some metric to look at, unless you have something that you can actually, see the numbers of, it's really easy to lie even to yourself, right? So it's good. So you have that little heart rate monitor there, and it shows you, whatever your heart rate is, and then you know if you're pushing it. So if you're sitting there pedaling or ellipticaling or whatever, and the heart rate's at like 100. Yeah, you're doing something, but you're not really pushing it that hard. Then you get up to like 130 or above, and then you go, okay, yeah, this is actually a hard thing. And it's also useful too, because with a lot of the exercise machines, you adjust the resistance. So it's not just that you're on the machine for an hour, but you can adjust the resistance, so it's harder or easier. And so if you're sitting there and you're doing the elliptical or you're doing whatever about as fast as you can, but again, you sit there and you see your heart rate's only like going at 100, then you're not really doing a lot. So then you increase the resistance a bit, and then once you see the heart rate go above 120 or 130, then you know that you're actually exercising. Again, this is one of those important things. I know a lot of folks out there, when I talk about exercise, they're like, what the hell does this have to do with anything? Eli, I knew Eli, the computer guy, back in the day when he talked about crap that mattered. I knew Eli, the computer guy, when he talked about technology and professional development. But now he's just talking about this exercise horse crap. But again, as I say, all things basically use the same principles. And the same principle with exercise goes with your career or with your business. And the idea is that you have to find out what your important metric is. So when you have a business, when you have your career, you are going to have metrics. And so it's up to you to figure out what metrics are actually important. What are the things that are actually significant, and what are the things that are irrelevant? Again, you can have all the certifications in the world, you can be incredibly smart, and you can still be broke. I know a lot of really smart people that, again, aren't very successful in life. Why? They focus on the wrong types of metrics. They're not looking at the right stuff. So that's why I talk about like the exercise, is just to have you guys thinking about, what are the metrics that you should be looking for. And it's a skill. It's something that you have to figure out. Again, like I say, for me, when I was running, the only metric I really had to care about was the time, how long it took me to get around whatever my loop was. And that was a good solid metric. All I needed was a watch to do it. But again, you get onto a machine and it's a different environment. Okay, you have a machine, instead of doing distance, you're now doing time. And the question is how do you judge whether or not you're getting yourself really good exercise? And so what I found is I do use a little heart monitor. I basically stopped using the heart monitor when I do my strength training. I don't really find it's that useful for strength training, because with strength training, I figure out what my what the weights I should be pushing are, and then I basically go to exhaustion, go to failure. So with that, it doesn't matter. Like, whatever my heart rate is, I can't push any harder. You know what I'm saying? So again, one of those things to be thinking about. So the exercise stuff is going along. I skipped the strength training yesterday because I was tired, and then I'm skipping the strength training today simply because we're gonna be doing this walk. And this walk is like a 2.5 mile, maybe a 3 mile walk. And so, I want to do these experiments. I want to make sure this camera works properly. So I'll just skip the strength training for today, just so I can do this little test. I think that's a decent thing. Again, one thing I've learned in life, especially being slightly autistic, is that it's good to not always be autistic. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's so many people in life, they get so autistic about things. Like, this is the way it has to be done. If I decide I'm going to do an hour of strength training today, by golly, I will do an hour of strength training every day. And it's like I'm saying, I should do an hour of strength training today. And more or less I'll do an hour of strength training today. But, if something more interesting comes along, I will do that too. So this will be kind of cool, like when I'm walking around, like whether I'm in Thailand or anywhere else, and give you these nice little panoramic shots here, give you an idea of all these areas that I'm walking in. this is one of those times where I sit here and I have this camera and I'm really thinking like, darn it, why didn't I have this camera last year? Because, you know, with my wife and I traveling around the country in the travel trailer, I mean, you know, like I say, going through Yellowstone and the Grand Canyon and Glacier National Park and all those amazing places. It would have been so cool to actually do this vlogging stuff while I was walking, but I didn't have the right camera to do it then. So, well, I guess I'll have to go find new places. But the exciting thing that I want to talk about today, though, is figuring out when you have a curve. And so for the curve, this is either for in your business or in your career. And basically what the curve is deciding that when are you on a path for success, even before you are technically successful. Again, whenever I try to talk about things with you guys, I always try to make it topical. And why this is topical for me is I am proud to say, Fail Normal is up for $42.50 for the past 28 days. Yeah! I made $3.75 off of this channel yesterday. Woot, woot, as they say. So I was talking to my wife about it. And as I've talked about for a long time, I'm kind of tired of the whole computer thing, the computer world. I am tired of being snarky. I am tired of being mean. I'm tired of dealing with idiots. I've talked about this for a long time. Anybody shocked by this shouldn't be. It means you're new to all of this. But anyways, I've been talking about just how annoyed I am with the technology world for quite a while. But unfortunately, like with many things, even though you may be annoyed with it, it's what pays the bills. And so you kind of got to stick with it, right? So I've been looking for my way out. I've been looking for my next thing. I've tried a little bit of this and I've tried a little bit of that. And what I'm happy to say is I actually think these Fail Normal vlogs are going to be my way into the future. I think Eli, the computer guy, is going to go onto the slow death and slow decline. Eli, Computer Guy Live, will probably follow it. And then hopefully by about this time next year, Fail Normal will be where I want it to be. And this will be making a good amount of money. And the reason that I think that is because I officially have a curve. And the curve is the most important thing for any business. So what am I talking about when I'm talking about the curve, and why is it important? Well, here's the thing. Whenever you're going to be doing any kind of business, and usually with many kinds of projects, the reality is that everything takes time and energy, right? Everything takes effort. So if I'm working on one thing, that de facto means I'm not working on something else. So this is the question that people come up to, especially in the startup world, is the question of when do you quit your day job? Because many times the problem is that you have to quit your day job, or you have to quit what you're doing primarily before what you plan to launch into is actually paying enough to do the mortgage, right? You get to this point in life where you're looking around and you're saying, okay, well, the venture that I'm doing I can see is going to pay me enough money to pay me with the mortgage in the future, but it's not paying me enough money to pay the mortgage right now. But in order for me to get to the point where it is paying the mortgage, I have to focus on it full time and give up what I'm doing previously, right? So I've had to do this a couple of times now. So with this whole curve thing with business, basically back when I started my consulting company, I had to figure out where the curve was. And then when I started focusing on YouTube full time the first time, I had to figure out where the curve was, right? So the curve back when I started as a consultant, that was actually really nice. The curve back when I started as a consultant was a beautiful thing. That was the way you want it to be. Well, not all of the circumstances, but basically when I started as a consultant, I started from the bottom of the barrel. I had gone from the guy that everybody had assumed was going to be in the 5-year retirement plan to I decided to go backpack around the world for a year and had the extraordinary bad luck of deciding to backpack around the world for a year. Literally, I decided to do that about 2 months before the dot-com bubble burst, right? So I left the job that I was at, where they were very happy to have me, where everything was going well. I left that to go backpacking through Europe, and figured once I got back, I would then be on the track for the CIO position or whatever. I got back after 3 months, the dot-com bubble had burst, And I was like, okay, well, no big deal. I'll screw around, do some other stuff, and then I'll go backpack through India. And so I screwed around, did some other stuff, and then I backpacked through India. And then I came back, and the dot-com bust was still in full swing. So then I went off to Seattle to try to make my way there. That was another year of a miserable mess. And so after 2 years, I had gone from basically everybody that I met thought I was on the 5-year retirement plan to the I'm on the fucked retirement. I'm on the fucked plan, right? I had gone from being really, really cool to essentially working, ended up working back in Baltimore in renting a room a block out of the ghetto, and like out of the Baltimore ghetto, and working for $10 an hour at Mercy Hospital as a temporary file clerk. That is how screwed I was. And to understand at the time about how screwed I was, this is after I had my bachelor's degree. This is after I'd had my military service. This is after I'd had my MCSE and my MCP+I. This is after I'd been then through the Windows 2000 boot camp. This is after I'd been through the CCNA boot camp. This is after I had learned Avaya, Dfinity, and Audix systems. This was after all of that stuff. And I wound up making $10 an hour. And again, this is what I try to tell you guys. Like, a lot of people get snarky with me or whatever. Like, oh, Eli, you talk about working, and you talk about being lazy, but it must be nice doing that from being on YouTube. Oh, these YouTube people just talk about how other people need to work. And again, what I try to tell you guys is I have been up and down and down and down and thrown the fuck off the socioeconomic ladder. You know what I'm saying? Like, I have had the rungs of the socioeconomic ladder break under my weight. You know what I'm saying? So that's where I was when I originally started my consulting company. And I didn't really start a consulting company. Again, to say that I started a consulting company would be a gross exaggeration. Basically what I did was I was sitting there and I was so screwed. And my buddies would ask me, and they say, hey, we're going to go drink some good beer, right? There's this place called Brewer's Art. There were a lot of good beer places back then. And anyways, and I just didn't have any money for it, right? Like, literally, my entertainment at that time was I could go out and buy a gallon of vodka for about $15. And that was my entertainment. Because I didn't have cable and barely had internet access. So, vodka. Oh, vodka, my friend. But anyways, so I'm sitting there, and I'm about as depressed as you can be. Because this is definitely not what should happen to somebody like me. I had done what you were supposed to do. And yeah, the world just did not give two craps. It's like, that's great. You followed the rules. That was stupid. So I was sitting there like trying to figure out what the hell to do with my life, make my little $10 an hour, $400 a week, fucking before taxes. Oh my God, how do people live off that shit? Like, I lived off that. I don't know how you do it. Anyways, I'm just like screwed. So I had met this guy, Adolfo, when I had been in Seattle, and he had started his own, he was actually a telephone system administrator, and he had started his own company, basically consulting company. And so I had sat there and I had talked with him, because, I talk with everybody, and he had told me how he had started it, basically going out there and knocking on doors and handing out flyers. And so, I came back to the Baltimore area. I was trying to figure out what to do. I told one of my buddies about this guy, Adolfo. My buddies were like, hey, you should just put up pull tab signs. Just put up pull tab signs for computer repair. Everybody needs computer repair. And I thought this was stupid. It's like, do you understand? I'm an MCSE. Do you understand? When I went through the Army, I went through the electronic program in the Army. I went through one of the longest electronic training programs the Army had to offer, right? I have my bachelor's degree. I have my certifications. Do you really think I'm going to go out there and put up pull tab signs just to fix some jackass's computer? That sounds, fuck. That doesn't sound like something I want to do, right? And then another week went by, and another week went by. And then I was like, well, fuck it. You know what? I'll take somebody's $25. I'll take $25. If you're willing to give me $25, I'll take $25. So I put up these little pull tab signs, right? And I put up the pull tab signs while I was still drinking my gallon bottle of vodka, while I was still in a $300 a month room, literally one block out of the ghetto. Like, when I say I was one block out of the ghetto, here's the deal, right? I would go and walk, because again, obviously I'd like to walk. And me, being me, I walk everywhere. Again, as I say, I'm just naturally, I just don't really care. And so I just walk everywhere. And again, as I say, Baltimore is 64% African American, so I'm a bit of a minority there. And I was renting a room, a block outside the ghetto, places where people were shot and all that. So I remember, like one time, like I went out walking, and I was just trying to clear my mind. And again, one of the great quotes out of my life, one of like the great quotes I will remember till the end I die, is I was walking down this road, and this guy looks at me, kind of nods his head. I nod my head at him, and he just kind of looked me up and down and goes, "Hey." I was like, "Hey, you lost?" I'm like, am I lost? You lost? I'm like, no man, no, I'm not lost. So when I talk about like being a block out of ghetto, I'm saying that when a white boy walks down the street, he is literally asked by a fine African American gentleman whether or not he's fucking lost. Like, yeah, no, I'm not lost. I'm not lost, but I get the point. Thank you much, bye, right? So anyways, that's the kind of thing. So I went out there, and I decided to put up some pull tab signs. And then I thought about what Adolfo had done. And he had handed out flyers. So I did that. And then it was an amazing thing. Because again, at that time, this was Windows XP Service Pack 1 era. If you're a young and you don't know what that means, if you're an oldie, you know that was just a freaking gold rush as far as computer repair was concerned. And so everybody needed computer repair. Best Buy didn't even own Geek Squad at the time. Like, I was a consultant when Best Buy bought Geek Squad. So there weren't really a lot of options out there. So I handed out my cards, handed out my flyers, said I'd work for like $50 an hour or whatever, or like $100 flat fee or whatever it was. And then the amazing thing was, within a month, I was making more money doing computer repair than I had been being a file clerk, right? So I looked at it and I'm like, huh. So I'm working like 5 hours a week doing computer repair, making more money than I am as a file clerk. And so that's where I saw the curve. Right? And so here's the thing. It wasn't making me enough money at that time to be able to afford a new car or to afford a mortgage or any of that kind of stuff. But it was making me enough money to be able to stop doing the file clerking stuff. And so that was the curve at the time. And so that was a thought as I sat there. And it's like, well, I can work 40 hours a week, making almost no money, and then work even more, being a consultant on top of that. Or if I'm working, $400 a week off working, or if I'm working, 5 or so hours a week, making $400 off of that, maybe I should just focus on that more, right? And so that was a pretty easy curve. I was like, look, I have a curve, and so I left. And again, the nice part with there was the worst case scenario was that I just go back and be a temporary file clerk. Again, the nice part about being on the bottom of the heap, and this is what a lot of poor people don't understand, and this is why a lot of poor people are fucking stupid, is that when you're on the bottom of the heap, when you're on the bottom of the pile, you can't go much lower. You can't go much lower. And now I know that sounds horrible. And when I talk about poor people, you're like, oh, Eli. And again, screw you. I've lived in houses with 15 people shoved in the house. My bedroom, far too much of my life was a walk-in closet. Again, when I was a kid, at one point, we literally used to make soup off of a popcorn popper because we couldn't afford the gas money. So again, when I talk about poor, again, a lot of people think like, oh, Eli, talk about, like, screw you. I've been fucking poor. I have been really fucking poor. So you know what? I can talk about poor. Because damn it, if I've been there, I can talk about it. But again, that's one of the problems with like poor people is they don't understand. Is you're already on the bottom of the heap. You're already as low as you can go. So the nice part about that is it actually gives you a lot of freedom, right? So if you're making $100,000 a year, and you have a $2,500 a month mortgage, and you have car payments, and you have childcare expenses, and you have all that kind of stuff, you can't take a lot of risk. Right? Because the minimum amount of money you have to bring in every month is something like $4,000. Like $4,000 is like turnkey expense for a lot of people. So you can't take a lot of risk. Well, here's the thing. If you're already on the bottom of the heap, if you're already renting a room for almost nothing, if your entertainment is literally already a bottle of the cheapest vodka you can buy, and there's not much lower you can go. One of the things that's nice is you can go out there and you can fucking wing it all you want. Because there's nothing under you. You're already on the ground floor. It's like when you're up in the skyscraper, you know, you got to be careful, because when you're up 100, 200 floors up, if you fall, it's a long way to the ground. It's a long way to the ground. When you hit the ground, you're just gonna splatter, right? It may be a nicer view up there. Oh yeah, it's a nicer view up there. It might be fresher air up there. Oh yeah, it's fresher air up there. There might be nicer people up there. Oh yeah, there's nicer people up there. But again, if you fuck up, you're gonna fall. You're gonna fall. And believe me, like when I say splatter and hit the ground, there are a lot of people that put a gun to their head when they trip from that level. And again, not hee hee ha ha, it really is true, because they're just kind of fucked. I've known enough people that were really fucking good. They had really good lives all the way up until something stupid happened, and then they took the 25-cent retirement plan. Know what I'm saying? But anyways, but the nice part is when you're on the bottom floor, is there's nowhere to fall. The worst thing is if you trip and fall, the worst thing that's going to happen is you might skin your knees a little bit. And so that's what I looked at. Like when I was in that situation, I looked at the curve. It was like, okay, after 1 month, I'm making more money than I am as a temporary file clerk. So what's the worst case scenario here? I can go out there and I can do this work, and I can try to push it, and I can try to do 10 hours a week or 20 hours a week. And if that really works, I can have a really good life again. I can have the life I am meant to have. And if it fails, the worst thing I do is I go back to the temporary agency I've been working for a month and go, hey, I don't suppose you have another temporary file clerk position, right? Because that's, again, the nice thing. If you can figure out how to live as a temporary file clerk, at least in the Baltimore area, there are a lot of temporary file clerk positions. Okay? And so that's where I looked at the curve. And so I did it, and I ran with it, and within 3 months, I was back to eating at Whole Foods. I was back to having a normal apartment, and so started way too many nights at Brewer's Art. Brewer's Art during like the 2005, 2006 time frame. That motherfucker, that was the place to be. Because again, one thing for you guys to think about, like with bars, is most bars have a certain type of clientele. So like when you normally think about bars, you think about like sports bars. And so people go there to watch sports, obviously. Well, Brewer's Art was kind of like the business and the post-grad bar for the Baltimore area. So you go there, and it was entrepreneurs, and it was CEOs, and it was PhD candidates, all getting fucking plastered. Oh, it was a wonderful time. And again, like I say, I had gone from spending $11 for a week's worth of vodka to dropping, $5 per pint of beer, and I don't know. Putting down 5 or 6 of them at least, right? But again, time was good. So again, that was my curve there. And again, one of the lessons in life too, I get so much snark from like poor people and from people whose lives suck. And one of the things is, again, what you have to realize is there are benefits and there are costs to wherever you are in life. Wherever you are, whatever you have, there are benefits, but there are also costs. And that's one of the things that not enough people think about is, again, if you want to go out there and you want to try to change the world, if you want to experiment, if you want to push the boundaries, being poor is the best place to be. And I know a lot of people, but it really is, because how fucking far do you have to go? If you're already living in a room in your parents' house, you can't fall any farther than that, right? So if you're going to try something, you might as well try something big, right? Because again, no matter what you do, you're going to have to try, you're going to have to attempt. So if you're already on the bottom floor, if you're 30 years old and your parents are already paying for your food, they're already paying for your room, you haven't gotten laid in 3 years, because why the hell would you take a girl back home to, your parents' house when you're 30, right? You don't have any farther to fall. So you can either attempt to go be an assistant manager or a manager at some retail store, at which point, what's the value of success? Even if you are successful there, even if you make it big, oh wow, you might be able to afford an apartment, right? Not on the good side of town. Versus if you're going to attempt something, might as well go out there and try something big. You know what I'm saying? If you're going to attempt, right? You're already on the bottom floor. It's like the worst, you can't fail anymore. It's like if you go out there and you try to start a startup company and you try to get venture funding, like if I was doing that and I put all of my energy and all my focus into it, again, I would have to be worried about the mortgage. Oh, what if I don't get the venture capital money, then I'm not going to be able to pay the mortgage. I'm not going to be able to pay the bills. Again, if you're already living in your parents' house, you're already screwed anyway. You might as well try to go out there and do something impressive, right? Anyways, again, cost and benefit, no matter where you are. That's why, like I say, I get really pissy at all these sad, mopey, oh, you don't understand how bad it is, Eli. You don't understand what it's like. And it's like, no, jackass. No, jackasses, you don't understand what it's like. I fully understand what it's like. I have left behind many, many, many people in those environments because they will just not do what needs to be done. And again, it's not for me to fucking force them out of it. But anyways, so that was my little curve there. So that was the thing. And so that was a pretty easy curve. That was an easy curve because you sit there and you go, okay, you're making more money than your day job, so obviously then you should jump off and do the consulting thing. Well, the next curve I then had, and again, this is about where my wife lost her damn mind at me. So then you fast forward a few years, and so I had done the consulting thing, got married, had the computer repair company with the building and the employees and all that kind of stuff. Then the recession hit, and so I'd been trying to figure out what to do, and that's when I had started doing the Everyman IT videos, and that hadn't worked out. I spent a year trying to do that, hadn't been able to get that to work out. I had the money to invest into it. I'll invest money into it. I hadn't been able to make it work out. So I went back to consulting. So I went back to doing consulting, making good money, all that kind of stuff. It was trucking along. And then YouTube, during that year I was doing the consulting, YouTube allowed me first to put up long form content. So before this time period, nobody could put up videos longer than 15 minutes. Like 15 minutes was the max you could do. So I had always wanted my videos to be long form. I mean, from the beginning, they were all supposed to be long videos. So it's like, well, my videos are long, so they're not going to go into YouTube. Well, when I was shutting down the whole Everyman IT project, that was when YouTube sent me an email saying, hey, since you haven't violated any copyright, you can now put long form videos onto your channel. And then so I looked at it. I had like 90 long videos at that time. I didn't want them to just go in the trash. So I figured, okay, I'll throw them onto YouTube. Because if nothing else, when I go out to get clients and they say, well, why should we hire you? I can say, look, I have 90-hour-long classes on everything from data recovery to computer security to, Linux and the whole 9 yards. So I figured I'd just put it there as a resume point, essentially. And then, 8 months went by. In August, they allowed me to monetize. And again, to understand how little I cared about monetization at that point, is I did not monetize my videos as soon as they told me I could. I basically gave YouTube the middle finger when they said I could monetize. Because I had tried to monetize my videos back when I had my own platform. And it had just been a colossal pain in the ass. It had just been horrible. So when YouTube said I could monetize, basically my thought was, what's the most I'm going to make off of this? $50 a month? And the thing was, at that point, you actually had to go through every single video and do a couple of check boxes. And then at that time, which actually was smart as far as all this, where's the fair use and all that kind of stuff is concerned. What was smart back then is you actually had to write out why you were allowed to monetize the content. You actually had to explain to YouTube why you felt you should be able to monetize the content. So again, I had to do that. And at that point, I continued to make some videos. So I think I was up to like 140 videos or something at that point. And so for me looking at it, it's like, I really don't want to spend all the time and energy to go through this process to monetize 140 videos to make a whopping $50 a month. Because again, I was a consultant and I made good money as a consultant. So again, $50 was rather insignificant, and $50 in a month was especially insignificant. And so I just didn't really have a lot of interest in it. So, 3 or 4 weeks had gone by, and then it was just one of those days where I had a down day. True story, I just had a down day. Whatever, clients had canceled or whatever. And so I was sitting there and I was looking at my YouTube videos, and then I thought, you know what, $50 is $50. I don't have anything else to do today. I didn't have advertising to do the day. I didn't have work to do that day. I had nothing. And my plate was completely free. So I was like, you know what, if I go through there and I monetize these 140 videos, $50 is $50. If I go through there and I'd spend a day, over a year, that's like, I don't know, $600 or something in a year. So that's worth a day of my time, right? So I go through and I monetize my videos and, basically don't figure much about it. I'm gonna make $50 this month. Well, the amazing thing was, it was like the first month I made like $111 or $100 and some odd dollars. And the second month I made like $200 and some odd dollars. And then the third month I made $300 and some odd dollars. And then $400 and some odd dollars. And then $500. $500. And so at that point, it was in December. And so I looked at that and I said, I have a curve. I have a curve. So I went to my wife and I had one of those really fun discussions that they never talk about in business school, where I look my wife straight in the eye and I say, dear, I have a curve. And she said, okay, well, that's great. So the hell what? It's like, so I'm going to stop doing consulting and I'm going to focus on YouTube full time. And then she looked at me and she was like, oh, okay. So you're going to work on YouTube more, but you're going to continue consulting, right? It's like, no. I'm going to stop consulting. I'm done with consulting. I'm going to stop consulting. I'm going to focus on YouTube. She's like, so you're still going to do work for other people? I'm like, no. God damn it. That's literally not what I'm saying. That's the exact opposite of what I'm saying. I'm not going to work for anybody else. I'm going to work on YouTube. And so what I explained, and that was a thing, is that I had a curve. So in 3 or 4 months, it had gone from $100 to $200 to $300 to $400 to $500. It was going up. And so I looked at it and was like, okay, well, this is a hell of a lot more enjoyable than fixing people's computer problems and dealing with type A CEOs and people that don't want to pay after work has been done. And if I see the money is going up the way it is, and basically the money is going up like this, essentially for a lot of old work, a lot of old videos, then if I sit here and I focus on creating new videos and I focus on creating new content, then we can speed this up. Because if it goes to 500, then 600, then 700, then 800, then 1,000, right? It goes up, right? So I was out there, my wife, I have a curve. And yeah, my wife was not very happy with me. Again, there are times. The arguments in life, the arguments you think you're going to have in life are not the arguments that you end up having in life many times. And so my wife was not very happy with me. But I was dedicated and I decided with that curve I was going to do YouTube. And again, to understand, like I say, $500, for whatever $500 means to you folks. Again, even $500 didn't mean much in a month to me. I mean, that was very easily how much money I made before lunch. So it really was like, I mean, basically you're talking about like a half day's worth of work. And I'm going to quit doing something where that's half a day's worth of work to focus on something where that's an entire month's worth of work. But I saw the curve, I saw the growth, and it was like, I've got to jump in there. And so, did the argument with the wife, blah, blah, blah. Definitely wasn't happy with me. But the amazing thing was, looked at it, and I think so January I think was 600, then February was 1,000, then March was 2,000, then went up to 4,000, and then 5,000, and then, like I say, however long ago that was now, it's been above 4,000 or 5,000 ever since. But that was the thing, is I had to look at it. I had to decide where I thought the curve was. I had to decide where it was best to stop doing work where I was making a good chunk of money and focus on the work where at the time I was not making very much money, but I could see the curve. I could see that it was going up. And so this is why you guys have to be looking at metrics, and this is why you have to be looking at numbers. Because the important thing to understand, it's not about one-off, right? It's not about like, this isn't like when I say I had the curve for YouTube, this isn't like at that time where Spiceworks came to me with one sponsorship. And that was the success. That was where the money was. It was that I could see overall that it was growing. You could see that it actually had a growth path. And so that's one of the problems that a lot of people get into when we talk about the curve, is that many times they don't focus on the curve. They focus on what they imagine. Again, they focus on traction. Let me tell you, don't fucking focus on traction. Do not focus on traction. Traction's worthless. Traction is just simply how many users you have using your product. Well, here's the thing, right? If you open a restaurant, and this is what I hate about traction. That's what I hate about traction. So imagine this. Imagine you open a restaurant that sells pretty good food. Let's say you sell burgers and fries. Let's say you sell good burgers and fries. We're not talking about like McDonald's burgers and fries. I don't know. We're talking about like Fuddruckers burgers and fries, whatever, right? And then you give them away. And then you completely, utterly give it away. And then every night your restaurant is packed. Every night you have a line of people waiting to get in the restaurant. But you're not making a dime from these people. You're not charging these people a dime. That is traction. That is traction. You have people that really want your product, essentially, while it is free. And that, again, as I say, is generally, basically, worthless for the most part. So what you really need to be looking at, like I say, with the curve, is that you're actually making money, and you can see that it's growing, and that you have a reasonable expectation that it will continue to grow. That is not simply a one-off thing. It's not that, oh, I made $1,000 this month, therefore I will leave my job to do this. It's, okay, I made $100, and then I made $200, and I made $300, and I made $500, and so if I continue on this path, that is going to get me to be successful. So when you're looking at the curve for when to leave your day job, essentially, and focus on your project, what you have to look at is a lot of it is just pure numbers, right? So one of it's pure numbers. Do you actually have some kind of growth curve? Do you have something that if you put more time and energy, you know it'll make you more money? Or you have a good thought that it's going to make you more money? Then, do you have the industry expertise? Do you have the industry knowledge to feel that what you're doing is actually going to be successful? So like when I monetized YouTube, remember at this point, although I hadn't been that successful before then, I had been working on this project for 2 years. So I had tried to monetize in lots of ways. I tried to monetize by selling my content, or basically having a streaming service of my content. I had tried to monetize by doing advertising. I tried to do all these things. And although those individual projects had failed, I had learned a lot from those individual projects about what would be required for success. So once I saw that little line going up, I could extrapolate what that line meant to a reasonable degree. So basically what you're looking at is, do you have the curve? Do you have the numbers going up? Do you reasonably have the expectation from actual experience to believe that if you put more time and energy into what you're doing, that will actually equal more money from what you're doing? And then as far as the curve goes, it's also a little bit of luck. It's also a little bit of luck. Again, with everything in business and in life and all of that, it's about risk. It's about risk. And again, risk is risk. Again, one of the things that I hate with the startup world and with so much of this stuff that people talk about nowadays is they laugh off the idea of risk. Ha ha ha. People should be more risk takers. They should be willing to have more of a risk tolerance. And it's like, jackasses. Here's the deal, right? When you do something and there is an actual risk involved, then there's a risk involved. It means that there is a real issue if you lose, right? So you may think you have an idea of what's going on. You may have a plan. You may be able to argue it very well. But if things don't work out how you expect them to, there are going to be really, 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 really bad issues, right? And so one of the things you have to think about with a lot of this is there is risk, there is luck. So you have the project you're working on, you start to get that profit growth. You know from your experience, you think you know, that if you put more time, energy, effort into it, you can grow it into something great. And then after that, it's luck. It's like, again, when I started my little computer repair consulting company, I always bring up, always, whenever you hear this story, you will always hear me talk about it was the Windows XP Service Pack 1 time frame. And I will always bring that up. And again, for a lot of young folks, you just don't grasp what that means. For any of the older folks, you know what that means. That was when viruses and spyware started hammering the hell out of Windows machines for the first time ever, and there was essentially no defense for it. So all these people were rushing out to get broadband. DSL was brand new. Comcast, or the high-speed cable internet, was still relatively new. Everybody was running out to get this stuff, and all of a sudden, their systems were getting hammered to high hell and back with spyware and malware and all this kind of stuff. The computers at the time were expensive, so it was a $1,000 computer. People were relatively flush with money at this point, and so it was a good time period to get into it. Right? If I had tried to do the same thing in 2009, I can tell you it wouldn't have worked out so well. Right? I may have been able to make the enough money to keep my room in that little house a block out of the ghetto, but that would have been about it. So a lot of it is again, there is risk involved. So this is one of those things that you got to be thinking about, like I say, when you look at your curve and when you decide to jump off. And so now, like with me, I'm looking at it, and as far as fail normal goes, I have a curve. I make, what did I say, $42.50 for the month, right? For the last 28 days, I have made $42.50. But here's the thing, one of the things you also have to think about the curve is, again, different factors weigh in. And as you have more experience in something, you're able to make better judgment calls. So I have now been doing video content creation for 6.5 years now, right? 6.5, I do believe. So I started in October or whatever of 2009. So 6.5 years I've been doing video content creation, gotten the experience that way. 4 years, maybe a little over 4 years, I've been making a professional salary off of YouTube. So like I say, actually being able to pay the bills off of YouTube. I've had sponsors. I've had many sponsors over the years. I've gotten lots of equipment given to me for things like reviews over the years. I've gotten paid to be a booth babe. I've gotten paid for personality work. Again, I just went to INE and literally got paid a good chunk of money per day simply to sit down and interview people. And I didn't even record the video. I didn't have to worry about the audio. I didn't have to worry about the video. I didn't have to worry about editing. I didn't have to worry about the final product. All I did was sit down on a couch with my little bottle of water and ask people questions and made money doing it, right? So at this point, I have a lot of experience with content. I have a lot of experience with content creation. I have a lot of experience with all the ways we make money off of content creation. And so I actually know what's going on in this world, where I really didn't a number of years ago. And so that's why I feel good with this whole idea of a curve now with Fail Normal. Because I look at it, and here are the things that I look at, right? So with Fail Normal, what I look at is that I have a very high audience retention time. Again, it averages out right now to about 13 minutes per video view. And depending on the day, that goes all the way up to 17 minutes per video view on a particular day. So what does that tell me? What does that tell me? That tells me that people are actually interested in hearing me talk. So they're interested in hearing me talk about the curve. They're interested in hearing me talk about humane mouse traps. They're interested in all that kind of stuff, right? Okay, so that's one of the things I can think about. Okay, so people are actually interested in hearing me do this. Then I look at the YouTube CPMs. So the CPMs, the cost per 1,000 impressions, realistically for a content creator, what we care about is actually called the EPM, the earnings per 1,000 impressions. But I look at the EPM, or the CPM, whatever you want to say, for Fail Normal, and it's actually shockingly high. It's actually not that much worse than Eli the Computer Guy. It's definitely less than Eli the Computer Guy. But it's not that much worse than Eli the Computer Guy. So you're sitting there and it's like, you know, if I was getting a lot more views than I get now, I could make some real money doing this just off the YouTube things, right? And then, like I say, I've already done sponsorships before, product placements, all that kind of stuff. And so I look at it from a professional standpoint and I think, okay, well, look at the dedicated following I have for Eli the Computer Guy. So if you go to the Eli the Computer Guy channel, it's up above 670,000 subscribers. It gets 50,000+ views per day. It gets 9.5 minutes average view time. It makes money. And obviously, it's significant enough. I get all the stuff that I've talked about before. And so, you know, oops, my wife is there. Hello, wife. Hey, dear. There's a wife. See, you can see. Can you see a wife? Let's see if we can zoom in on a wife. I'm not sure I can see my wife using this thing. My wife is somewhere over there. Wave your hands again. Can you see that? Oh yeah, I think that's her. No. Oh, there she is. There we go. So there you go. See, you can see my wife. All right, I'll see you at home. Sometimes I think my wife does not understand that I actually do this stuff for a living. Like, hi, I just want to say hello while you're talking to the webcam. Like, damn it, dear. I do this for a living. This is my job, woman. Anyways, but that's the nice thing about these types of videos, is if my wife bumps in for whatever reason, that it just adds to the flavor, But anyways, so look at that and look at like, okay, so I've got this dedicated following, I'm significant in this world, blah, blah, blah. But the thing is you gotta think about the subject matter I talk about. You know, like the class I'm about to do, I should have done today, I'll do tomorrow, is, you know, AWS Compute Introduction. Right? You know, last few classes I've done, you know, quality of service introduction, bandwidth throttling introduction, you know, AWS storage introduction. And here's the thing, right? You know, I look at that And although I've got a dedicated following, the reality is most people don't even understand what the hell I'm talking about. Like, you're not going to get random people going, oh, I wonder what AWS Compute is, and going and watching that video, right? That's just how it is. So that's a very, very, very niche area. And so what I'm looking at is it's like, you know what? If I could have the draw power, if I could have the power to keep people watching my videos, when I talk about more general concepts, the way that I do on the Eli the Computer Guy channel, that could be incredibly powerful. Again, that could be insanely powerful. When I talk about subjects that people understand, that any Tom, Dick, or Harry could actually grasp, if I can talk about that, and I can keep the average view time well above 10 minutes, that could be insanely powerful. Because, like, one of the problems with Eli the Computer Guy, the main channel, is since it's an educational channel, one of the reasons why I have high subscribers but low views is it's education. Right? So if you already know what quality of service is, you're not going to watch my QoS video. If you already know what bandwidth throttling is, you're not going to watch my bandwidth throttling video. If you already know what AWS Compute is, you're not going to watch my AWS Compute video, because it's education. Right? You don't go back for an associate's degree in computer science once you have a master's degree in computer science. Just how it works, right? And so, but the thing is though, if I can start doing content that is more of entertainment type stuff, and I could have that same drawing power, oh, that could be amazing, right? And so when I talk about the curve for Fail Normal, and I talk about $42.50 in 28 days, I know that sounds stupid. That sounds like, oh, look at Eli again. He just likes his risk. He just likes, playing the odds, playing poker or whatever. And it's really not the case. It's now, like before, when I was looking at the curve for Eli the Computer Guy, it was at $500, because at that point, I could see where it was going based on my experience, based on my expertise at the time. I could see where it's going. Now I can look at it at $42.50, and again I start looking, and so we've gone from, last week I was getting 700 views per day on Fail Normal, and now this week I'm getting 2,100 views per day. Right? Subscribers. Again, we're only at 3,000 subscribers, but subscribers are going up. Views and view times going up. Average view time's going down a little bit, but that's only because view time's going up, or views are going up. So the more views you get, a lot of times your average view time goes down, mainly because people are basically just YouTube surfing. And so I can sit there and I go, okay. With the experience I had before, I can essentially make an educated guess. I can make a hypothesis that if I keep going on this path, I will be successful. And as I say, the weirdest thing in business, let me tell you the weirdest thing in business that is not going to seem like the weirdest thing to you guys, but it truly is. The weirdest thing in business is I was talking about this whole curve thing with my wife like last week. And when I talked about the curve last week, it was $32 in 28 days. I was like, look, dear, I have a curve. I want to start focusing on Fail Normal. I really think that this is the future. I really think I can make something amazing out of this. And then I sat and I waited for it. Oh my golly, I waited for it. I waited for the skies to open. I waited for the thunder to crack. I waited for the lightning to rain down on me. And instead she looked at me and she said, yeah, okay, sounds good. I was like, I just stopped. I was like, I'm sorry, dear, what did you say? She said, yeah, okay. Yeah, you got a curve. Yeah, you got a curve. Okay, yeah, sounds good. And I was like, well, no. But what do you mean it sounds good? What do you mean it sounds good? That's not the response I figured I was gonna be getting out of you. And she just looked at me for a second and she was like, look, we've been together like 11 years now. I was like, yeah? She's like, you come up with these harebrained ideas, and every time up until now, I always tell you why it's not gonna work. I always shake my head. I always think you're crazy. I was like, yeah? And she's like, and then you pull it off. And then you do it. So she's like, you know what? If you think $32 is a freaking curve, fine, go for it. And it's just like where you like sit there for a second. It's kind of like, when you're a kid and you get to be like 17 or 18 years old, and then, you're thinking about sneaking out of the house or something, to go out to a party, and then you run into your parent, and then you kind of stop there like frozen, like, uh-oh, uh-oh, my parent is seeing me in my nice clothes, sees me in my party clothes, but my curfew is supposed to be like 10 or 11 o'clock or something. Uh-oh, what's gonna happen? And then your parent goes, yeah, okay. Yeah, have a good night, have fun. And you're like, what? It's like, well, you know, you're 18. You know, you can figure it out yourself. You're like, and you almost feel like going back and getting back into bed. It's like your parent tells you that they now trust you. And when they tell you they trust you, it almost makes you think like, you know what? Maybe I just want to go back and get in bed. Maybe, I don't know what's going on with the world right now. Maybe it'd be best just to sleep this one over. And then you're 18 years old and you really want to get laid. And so you say, screw it, and you go out anyway. But that's the thing, like I say, having a spouse, it's like this is the first time, like I say, she's just like, yeah, whatever. You think $32 is a curve? Great, $32 is a curve. And now it's good, because the next week has gone by. I'm like, look, it's $42. She's like, hey, cool, $42. We got bills to pay. Just don't forget we got bills to pay. You don't forget we got bills to pay? Fuck, go for it, right? But these are the thoughts. These are the thoughts on finding your curve for your startup or for your business or for whatever endeavor you have. Because that's the thing, is you gotta risk. You gotta risk. And as I talk about, you've only got so many hours in the day, right? You have only so many hours in the day, and you only have so much energy, and you only have so much stress to deal with, right? If you have a really bad relationship with your wife, and you get into an argument with your wife, or you get into an argument with your spouse, before you even get to work in the morning, you're already gonna be tired before you get to work. You know what I'm saying? If you have all of these issues, you're not going to have enough time and energy that's required in order to be successful. And so that's why the curve is important, because it makes you have to think, you know, before you're paying the bills with your within the next project, you have to give up what is paying the bills. And the question, when do you do that? When do you do that? You know, it depends on what your risk tolerance is. What is your risk tolerance? What are current market conditions? What do you imagine? And believe me, I mean it when I say what do you imagine. What do you imagine the business environment to be? You know, how much money do you have in your bank accounts? Or how much money do you have invested? Or you can pull out of your 401k. How much of this stuff, you know? And so basically that's what you got to do, is you got to sit there and you got to look at all that kind of stuff, and then you got to figure out, you know, when is the curve. And again, one of the things too to be thinking about is there are periods of time. There are periods of time when you can be successful, and periods of time when it's harder to be successful. So, you know, like if I had really wanted to grow my IT consulting business, back when I was just doing consulting, I should have really focused on growing the business itself more. So back in that Windows XP Service Pack 1 era, if I had worked harder and grown an IT service business then, when the recession hit, I would have been able to survive it, because at that point we would have been big enough and would have had enough clients that I would have been able to weather the storm. I mean, calling brass tacks, I mean, I would have had to fire some employees, but I still would have had my business, and some of my employees would have still had their jobs. But because I waited for a period of time, you know, that opportunity went away. Again, for a lot of you people, when you're thinking about opportunities, you know, it's wife, it's kids, it's spouses, it's all this stuff. You know, take time and energy out of your life. You know, I was talking to a buddy of mine way back when, so before I had gone and traveled through Europe. So I was leaving the gig that I was at, and I remember we were, I was helping out with this migration to this new campus facility. And so me and this one guy and another guy were sitting there looking over the balcony of what they were turning into the fancy dining room. And we're just sitting there talking about it. I was talking about, you know, my plans for Europe and all that. And I remember this one guy looking at me, and he was like 32 or something. He looked at me, he's like, man, this is the time to do it. You got to do it now. I wish I could do it, but you know, I'm married, I can't. And I looked at him, I was like, well, you're married, what does it matter? You know, you can still do it. And he looked at me, he was like, man, no, you just don't understand. I love my wife is great, but you know, I can't just leave or backpack through the world for 3 months. That's just not gonna fly. And so that's something to be thinking about with you guys, like you guys, girls, Z's, going out there trying to actually do something impressive in the world. Again, when you're living in your parents' house, when your parents are paying the bills, when your parents are feeding you, that is the time to lay it all on the line. You know what I'm saying? Like if I lost a year's worth of salary, if I lost a year's worth of salary at this point in my life, I would be screwed. That's a lot of fucking money. That is a lot of money, right? That's hard to recover from. I'm not saying I can't recover from it, but it would be hard to recover from. On the other hand, right, if you're working at a minimum wage job, if you're working in retail, if you're working in fast food, if you're working in a crappy job, guess what? Guess what, boys and girls? If you lost an entire year's worth of salary, it's a drop in the bucket. You can literally, there were times as a business person, I could make an entire, $20,000 profit in 2 weeks. Profit, not gross, profit in 2 weeks. So you think about that, right? I mean, then that's how business really works. So again, somebody my level, my salary now, I could not remake that amount of a year's worth of salary in 2 weeks. But again, if you're a minimum wage, if you could figure out a business, whatever that business is, projects, this, that, or the other thing, again, so the risk really isn't that high for you. And that's one of the things you have to be thinking about, like with the curves and all this kind of stuff, is when you're low, when you don't have much, when you don't have a spouse, when you don't have a significant other, when you don't have a lease, when you don't have bills that are really important, when you don't have mouths to feed, when you don't have pets, that's the time just to run with it for all it's worth. You look at that curve and you made $50 this month. By golly, that's the first $50 of your million. That's a $50 down payment on your first million. You know what I'm saying? And it really is true. And now again, like I say, I know I get a lot of snark from poor people. Oh, you don't understand. And again, what pisses me off so much about it is those stupid little pieces of garbage. I completely understand. I know. I've been there. I have been there as an adult. It sucks. But again, what are you going to do? What are your options? What are your options? So those are the thoughts. Looking at the curve. So I'm thinking about it, and I say failed normal. I've got that $42 curve. Because again, like I say, I think about it like with sponsorship things too, and that's why I feel more confident with things like sponsorships for fail normal than I do for Eli the Computer Guy. Is because one of the things you have to understand with Eli the Computer Guy is basically I'm a technology professional. I am a real dyed-in-the-wool technology professional. I got my MCSE before some of you people were even born, right? And so when I do sponsorships, or when I do product placements, I have to be very careful. I'm not Linus Tech Tips. And again, God bless Linus Tech Tips. But he's a kid. He's a kid who deals with computer repair crap. He can say whatever the hell wants to come out of his mouth. And it's not really going to ding him as far as his career is concerned. Guys, if I go out there and I start talking out my ass about some product, and then you go out there and you drop $10,000, $20,000, $50,000 on that product, and it completely and utterly fails in the way that I told you it was going to completely and utterly succeed, that is just bad for me all the way around. That is just bad in so many ways, because not only is that going to have viewers pissed off and have people questioning what I know, but I mean, I really do have CEOs that watch that content. I have high-level executives that watch that content, and so they sit there and they watch the content and they decide whether or not they're going to hire me. Again, when I got hired by INE, I was talking to the main person, and I was like, you do know what kind of content I create, and really was like, oh yeah, the CEO watches you all the time. We love you, right? So I have to be careful about what I say, because again, with technical products, what looks good on paper doesn't necessarily work out well in the real world. But here's the thing, what's really nice, what is really nice about doing a lifestyle content creation company is that it doesn't matter. I can shill, or I can talk about products all I want, and it doesn't matter. I can say, I like the cut and feel of this North Face jacket. And actually, I really do, because I wear this thing all the time. But here's the thing, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You go to the website, you look at the North Face jacket, and if you like it, you buy it. And if you don't like it, you don't buy it. It doesn't ding me. There's no repercussions for this, If I say I like a particular backpack, if I'm like, some company sent me this backpack, and I'm testing it out, and I go, I like this backpack. Again, It's not horrible. Nobody's world is going to end if they buy that backpack and they don't like it, or if there's some small little issue with it. And so that's one of the reasons why I like the concept of fail normal, like with sponsorships or whatever, is frankly because I can take a lot more. Because what a lot of people don't realize with Eli the Computer Guy is I reject a lot of money. I reject a lot of money with Eli the Computer Guy simply because I don't feel confident in the products. They're like, we want you to, you know, show this off, or we want to do this product placement, or we want you to, and I look at it, I'm like, I don't feel confident enough in your product to do that. I don't feel confident enough in your customer service. I don't feel confident enough that, you know, every single product that comes out of the factory is 100%. I mean, I see what you have, and what you have is pretty interesting, but I don't believe that any one of my viewers will buy their product and not have something that comes dead on arrival. And so that means, again, like I say, a lot of money that I have to give up. Again, on the other hand, if I'm saying, hey, look, you know, Under Armour just sent me these clothes to go traveling in, right? It's fucking Under Armour. It's a shirt. Eli, I don't like the color of that shirt. Okay, fine. Right? And so that's why I'm a little more confident with this too, is because like I said, I don't have to worry. There's not as much of a professional concern. Again, I still have to be honest. I still have to be honest about it, but it's not, like I say, I feel like with Eli the Computer Guy, I have to be super honest. I watch myself in ways a lot of people really don't even grasp or understand, just because I have to make sure, you know, do I believe what I'm saying? Am I confident in what I'm saying? And again, like I say, with a lifestyle company, I don't have to do it that much. And the other nice part about lifestyle companies is even some things that I may not like, other people like a lot. Because I've done that. I've talked about clothing before. I've talked about other stuff with friends of mine. I'd be like, oh, this is a piece of garbage. And then I have friends of mine who are like, what do you mean? That's the most awesome thing I've ever had in my life. Right? So that's why I'm confident. That is why I'm confident. I'm feeling good with Fail Normal. So yeah, Eli the Computer Guy is still going to be trucking along for a little while longer, because I've still got some sponsors over there that I've got to run through all of their ad space. And then again, like I say, keep milking it until this thing makes more money. But I'm pretty confident, because I think this could be cool, like I say, because I mean, that's the plan, like even just on the books right now. So we're going to be going to Thailand for a month. So in 2 weeks we go to Thailand for a month, then we come back, and then after that we're probably going to be getting in the RV. So I think from like July to August we're going to get in the RV, and we're going to go up to the Adirondacks, and hopefully go up to Acadia National Park and all that kind of stuff. And so that's just on the books right now, and then after that, hopefully, like I say, if I'm making money traveling, I mean, that's a great old thing, right? We can go out for a month, we can have a ball, I can videotape it, then we can upload it, you know, have a month of downtime, and, you know, eat some good food, have some relaxation, upload all the video, and then head right back out again. So, and it's something that we like. I mean, again, that's one thing you have to think about, like with the Curve too. One of the big things with the Curve, the question with the Curve is do you want to repeat this 1,000 times? 1,000 times. So that's one of the reasons, like my wife, the only question my wife really asked me about the whole Curve thing with Fail Normal is she said, well, why do you feel better about Fail Normal now versus Fail Normal last year? So last year is actually when I created the Fail Normal channel, and you can go back and you can look at it. And what I told her is it was like, there's a couple of things. So with last year, we were in the travel trailer, and we had planned to be in the travel trailer for 1.5 years, 2 years. So one of the issues that I ran into was simply, how am I going to upload all of this video content? So if it's 4K video content, 10 gigs for video, the question is how do I upload all of that when we're staying in RV parks and never coming back to a normal home? Like right now at home, I've got a 35 megabit up and download speed. So I could just sit here and upload videos all day, no big deal. But if we're traveling around all the time, I don't necessarily have that ability. So that was the first problem that I had. And so now, with how we're going to be traveling, we leave for a month, we come back for however long, right? So even if I get a backlog of videos, even if I go to Thailand, and while I'm in Thailand, I can't upload all my videos, well, when I come back, I will be able to upload all those videos, right? So it's not lost content. And then the other thing is, I was telling her, is I feel better about the type of content that I'm creating now. So back when I started doing Fail Normal, or when I was doing Fail Normal when we were in the RV, I felt more like a tour guide. Like, you know, we would see museums, we would see this or that and the other, and then I would kind of sort of talk about it. But it was more like doing like reviews for tourist attractions, which again, I just don't want to do 1,000 times. I mean, Again, it's okay, I went to see a museum. Well, right? Whereas I feel like with this, if I'm just going out during the day and I'm experiencing, so we're kayaking or we're riding elephants or we're just eating street food, it's not like it's a tour guide. I can come back after a day and be like, guys, man, I had the best pad thai, I had the best fried bananas, and just talk about it in more of a relaxed fashion. So I think of this more kind of like a daily blob for life, or daily blob for adventure. And again, like I said, those daily blobs, back when I did daily blob, I did like 300 daily blobs. So this is a type of content that I feel more comfortable with. And so that's another big thing with the curve. It's like, okay, you're making more money. Okay, you see the curve for the money. Okay, you can intellectually understand how you can make this successful. But again, one of the big questions you have to ask yourself is, do you want to do this 1,000 times, right? And so that's what I looked at, like right now, and that's one of the reasons I bought this video camera and all that, is I started doing these fail normal videos again, like February 17th, right? So it's now August 12th. So I've been doing these again for 2 months. So I've been doing this again for 2 months, and I feel good about it. It's not like, well, I'm doing them, I do them, and it's I can make money doing it, and it pays the bills, right? No, I feel good. It's my little thing. It's my little meditation or whatever every day. You know, every day about 4 or 5 o'clock or 3 o'clock or whenever, it's like, oh, okay, I gotta go and make an hour-long vlog video. Dum-da-dum-da-dum-da-dum-da-dum-da-dum. So there we go. I've been talking for a while now, 1 hour and 16 minutes. I like this camera. This is a good talking to camera. This is a good talking to camera, I do have to say. The GoPro camera didn't seem like a good talking to camera. Like, I feel like when I'm talking, maybe it's just because it's so damn big and it has this weird little eye that follows me. Maybe that's it. But I don't know, there was something about, again, weird things with like equipment and usability for equipment. There was something about talking into this particular camera where I feel good about talking to this camera. I feel like it's my little friend. It's my little camera friend that happens to be following me. And I'm giving life advice to my little camera friend. I feel good talking to this camera. Like the GoPro, I didn't really feel good talking to the GoPro. I don't know, talking to the GoPro kind of made me feel a little insane, to be honest with you. I was talking about that yesterday, talking to GoPro, and I was saying, you know, if this was 10 years ago and I was talking to a stick, people would have thought I was insane. But now I talk into a stick, and it's my profession. Right? I don't feel like I'm talking into a stick with this one. I feel like I'm talking to some weird, it really does. It feels like I'm like talking to some weird little alien life form here. Cause it is like, I can't explain it to you, but the camera lens follows you. And it's in a way I've never seen a camera lens follow you before. Because again, normally the camera lens itself is stable, and then there's some kind of like internal stabilization mechanism. This is like the housing moves, but then inside the housing, it's like this little eyeball that follows you. It's a little bizarre. But anyways, I do feel good. The big thing with the test today was seeing how the weight was for this particular camera. So again, I do have to say this is a crap ton heavier than my other cameras, and like 20 times heavier than a GoPro. But obviously, I've been talking to this thing for 1 hour and 18 minutes, so it's not too bad. Again, it's not... I can feel it. I'm gonna take a little Advil. I'm gonna get a little arm massage. When I go to Thailand, I'll be like, give me a Thai massage. And be like, oh, happy ending? No happy ending. Just my right arm. Just my right arm. That's all. Just touch my right arm. All I want you to do is massage my right arm. So yeah, definitely the arm has a little strain here, but not too bad. Not too bad, obviously. There's a little thing you do. Like if you're gonna vlog the way that I do, because again, I have this, it's a Manfrotto monopod. So what you wanna do is you wanna buy a monopod. And then the way that I'm able to do this and keep my strength is you kind of lock your arm. So my elbow comes here, and then my arm is out that way, and so that basically it allows me to hold the camera out at a specific distance, and it doesn't strain the arm so much. So if my arm is out like this, then that means all the weight is there, and so that means there's a lot of muscles. And so if I position my elbow like this kind of stabilizes the whole thing, and it's a lot easier to carry it around for 1 hour and 19 minutes now. Again, little tips and tricks I tell you guys. Anyways, with that, it has been a long babbling. And I think I might do some housework today. I need to mulch some stuff. Oh yeah, oh yeah. When you get to be 39, you get to do all the cool stuff like mulching flower beds. Daddy, when I'm 39, can I mulch flower beds like you? No, boy. Anyways, I think that's all there is for today. So let us go and give you a nice little scenic shot here, and then I will talk to you guys hopefully tomorrow.